What's up, guys? Welcome back to set. Today we are with, yet again, Justin Jones, the man, the myth, the legend. He was with us in our previous episode where we covered the basics of using projectors.
So today we're getting a little bit more advanced. We're gonna be mapping our images from the projectors onto those boxes to get a really cool look. The next thing we're going to be doing, 2 projectors at the same time, one on our talent, one on our background, to get a completely different look than we've ever had before. And the last thing we're gonna be doing is actual live feed. So this is actually one of my favorites because we're taking the live feed from the camera, sending it through to a distortion box, and then projecting that back onto our talent in real time. This is crazy advanced stuff. It's gonna be really cool.
Dude, that sounds so dope. I cannot wait to get into that. You guys, and just remember, we are using some, expensive high-end gear today, but these can be achieved with cheaper, the stuff we learned in the basics episode, we could apply those to this sets, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so don't worry if you don't have the biggest budget in the world. This applies to everyone, even those indie filmmakers who scrap like we did.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Let's get it.
All right. Okay, so we have this computer, we have this projector, we have some stuff on the stage. Talk to us about projection mapping. You mentioned that earlier.
Right, so what we're doing is we're starting out with a white cyc and these 3 white boxes that you see here. Now, the reason we chose to keep those like a matte white is because we're gonna be mapping this projection onto those boxes, and that's gonna allow the images to show up brighter and more vibrant. So we have those in frame. The next thing we need to do is add a projector because we wanna project images onto those boxes.
How do we get them individually on each box and not spill?
And that's a great question because if we just had the projector, it would just project onto everything, right? Now we want to try and get this a little bit more advanced, so we're going to be cutting those individual frames to those boxes exactly, so it doesn't spill off of them. That's what brings us into the computer in the program here. We're using VPT-8, which is a projection mapping software, and what that basically does is allows us to have these little corner keyframes to take a video file, shrink it down, and put it perfectly and match it to those boxes. You can get as many, maybe 8, 9, 10, 40, 50, depending on the software, video clips mapped to stuff. So every little box will have its own image and that won't spill off of that. You might think that it would be really expensive, but VPT-8 is 110% free.
Wow.
There's other ones out there that do cost upwards of $1,000. Took me about an hour to learn how to, do the basics in it to get what we need done today. So you can do this entire setup on a budget as well. Say there was only one box that you needed to do this on, and you can get your projector a lot closer. It could then be brighter, and you can make it happen for not nearly as much as we have here on set. So what we're actually working on at the moment is we have the projections mapped to all our boxes, but our talent has no light. So she's just gonna be a silhouette at the moment. We are going to put a Nova P300 up here with a grid on it to control that light. That's just gonna give her some exposure on her face. And we wanna have the grid on it to control it. If we don't do that, it's going to spread all over everything, lower the exposure on the projections, on our boxes, and kind of ruin the effect we're trying to get. We're not using haze here because that will ruin the effect. We're trying to hide the effect that these lights are coming from projectors. We want it to look like it's emitting from the box. So the last light we're going to be adding is the 300D with a spotlight mount. Once again, this is all about controlling our sources that are lighting our talent because we don't want them spilling onto the rest of our set. The whole entire set is bright white. Any light that spills onto it is going to show, but it's also going to decrease the brightness and the contrast of the projectors that we have hitting our boxes. I've added one more thing, which is just, which is just this 2x3 flag, and that's gonna be cutting a little bit more light off our set, just helping us control that. So I think those are the last lights. Kevin's having fun, I'm having fun. Let's go, let's get it.
Looking good.
If I hop up on the mic, they gon' play it on repeat. Cash 100 milli check, I get paid just to breathe.
This is sweet.
I love it.
I'm loving
perfect.
it too. Wow, I'm super impressed. I learned so much just off of that one, but that's not all. We've got so much more to do today.
Next, we're gonna kind of elaborate on the last episode's video, right? So we projected straight onto our talent, but this one we're gonna bring in a second projector, and we're gonna try and tell a story here where we have an image on the background and then we're gonna project an image onto our talent. So we're gonna get some separation there because it's two different projections. And what I'm gonna try and do here is tell a story with clouds moving in the background and then lightning flashes that are gonna be happening on her.
Oh, that's cool. You know what, it's not super complicated. This isn't crazy stuff. Basically what we're doing is we're just doubling up. We just have one projector for one element and another projector for another element. In this case, it's subject and background. Pretty simple stuff, but it's super effective, and I think this next one's gonna be cool.
So what we're doing at the moment is positioning our projector that will be on our talent. The reason why we're getting it this close is because I want to basically increase the resolution that is going to be on her face, right? The closer it's gonna be, the smaller the pixels will be, right? They're not gonna be spread out like this projector on our background. One thing though, getting this close to your talent is going to be extremely bright on them, so you have to communicate to them. She kind of already knows the gist of this. I talked to her and said, hey, it's gonna be really bright, just watch your eyes. But that's something you need to be mindful of because it's so bright, it can damage eyesight, just like any other bright light. So make sure you communicate that to your talent before they look straight into the lens. So after we do this, it's going to be positioning our projector for the background. That one doesn't matter so much if it's further back because we are going to have a shallow depth of field. So that will go ahead and blur those pixels that are being projected in the background. Let's get this Nova on a lightning effect. If we can, we'll go ahead and bring it forward too and have it about this angle. So I'm putting a lightning effect on her face, and I just thought it would totally be a missed opportunity if I didn't bring in the Nova and put the lightning effect as kind of a back edge light. I think that's really gonna complement the lighting that's on her face from the projector, and so that's just another badass element to this setup.
Justin, we got thunder going on. We got a nice, model in there. We got clouds in the background. Where the heck does this fit in content-wise in the world of film?
I think it's more in the experimental realm, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of a cop-out, right? Anything can really be experimental. But I think a lot of companies nowadays are really stepping out of that safe boundary and allowing filmmakers to create more experimental stuff, So
very true.
For a fragrance company or for a makeup brand that's called Thunder, Light, something like that, this could be a really cool creative to kind of help sell that, especially when we move into our close-ups and we're seeing the eyes and the makeup with the lightning crashing over that.
Yeah.
Could be cool. Yep, exactly. Yes. Perfect.
That right there.
That was a great moment.
All right, that was sweet. I loved how we were seeing those slow motion lightning bolts across the face. Now we're getting into you got some crazy stuff in your hand. I don't even know what that is. What is that?
It's a very experimental technique I haven't done before, so we're just gonna see what we're gonna get here. We're basically sending the video signal from the live camera through to the computer and then into the projector. But before it goes back to the projector, we're gonna be running it through this little box here. And this is a glitch effects box from Cinematography. And what it's doing is it's almost like an audio synthesizer, right? You're able to degrade the image quality, give it glitches practically in real time and project that back onto our talent.
So this sounds like you're a scientist, like you're just dialing in. You're like Chef Justin, Chef Jones cooking up.
A little bit of this, a little bit.
Yeah, a little Cine Bay is what I call it. What's the inspiration behind this? What kind of drew you to this?
Sure, so when we were talking about the effects we wanted to try here on set, if you've ever filmed a monitor that's monitoring what your camera's doing, you kind of get that infinite mirror type look,
Yeah,
right?
kinda
So if you
warpy,
turn the
yeah.
camera, it's just like choo, 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 choo. But then I was like, a clean image might be kind of boring. So then I remembered the guys at Cinepax had this. And so this is just gonna take that one step further to the next level. And so that's kind of the inspiration behind it.
I love it.
Let's see what happens.
Put your elbow up like this. Get your elbow, and then just do the sprinkle, and it's called Cine Bay, baby.
So So let's talk about our signal path, right? We have the Red Komodo. Red Komodo is going up to, what kind of monitor is that?
Cine 7, small HD, Cine
Small
7.
HD, Cine 7. Out of that, we're going HDMI. HDMI is coming out to this upscaler here, which is turning our HDMI signal into a RCA video signal. Then from that, we're going into our glitch effects box, right? This is like the synthesizer for video. Then from that, we're going back out into HDMI. So now from HDMI, we're taking that all the way back up into our projector, which is going to then return the feed, right? So it's gonna be a infinity loop.
I'm tracking.
So the reason we have the projector up high like this, we want to get as direct of an angle. So having it up high is going to eliminate camera shadow. It's also going to put her shadow behind her, which will hide a lot of her own shadow as well. So we had another issue where we forgot that we needed light. So in my head, I thought the projector was going to provide light for our talent that would then in turn be picked up in the camera and then projected back, but it doesn't work like that because you need a light source, right, to start. So at the moment I have a Aputure Nova P300C. It has a grid on it, and I have this off to the side so that that grid can work, right? It's allowing that light to push this way while the grid is keeping it off of the background. That's where we're at right now. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump in there, experiment. I'm gonna grab the camera and just have fun. So, Kevin, you could probably take the reins on this. Let's leave it on this effect for a second, and then we'll just do one where we go crazy.
Got it.
Thank you, everyone. That's a wrap.
Guys, that was so sick. Justin, thank you so much again for being a part of B2S. Dude, we covered so much today. Let's give them a little recap.
So first we did projection mapping. Second, we did 2 projectors, one on the background, one on our talent. And third thing we did was that live feed effect. And I'd have to say, out of the 3, it's really hard to choose my favorite, but I'm gonna have to say that first projection mapping with the static on the boxes, with the pink color contrast was absolutely my favorite.
I agree, that thing was really awesome, but I have to say my favorite was kind of just this overarching feeling of having open-ended creativity and just experimenting and having that freedom. So before we go, we have a question from one of Valentina's recent episodes, and it was centered around what you wish you knew when you first started out. What's something you wish you knew?
So I'd have to say the most important thing I could tell myself back then would be to work on communication. I feel like communication gets overlooked so much. People don't think it's important. It's like with all these cool film gear and camera, lighting, directing, all that. But when you have a vision, if you don't communicate that vision to your team, nothing's gonna get done. So I wish I knew that earlier, but you know, as time goes on, you learn these things.
I think that's an amazing one. I can fully adopt that, but if I were to think something outside the box, it'd probably be asking for feedback. And whether that's being on set, whether you put out a video or you edited something or you shot something, asking for feedback, but going a step further and receiving that feedback in a positive way and learning from that. So I think that does it for us, guys. Justin, again, we really appreciate you bringing your expertise, your knowledge here. This was awesome. I learned so much, and I hope that you guys learned so much. That's why we spend all this time. This crew is here, is to do this for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us here at Back to Set. We'll see you next time. Peace. Later. Boxes are stacked a certain way, and if you're a filmmaker and cinematographer like myself and Justin Jones, you'll know why he asked to put configure some of the Apple boxes LA and Chicago. What does that mean? LA is big and wide, so you want to make it, you know, flat, which is the bottom one. Top ones he asked for Chicago because, you know, you got some of the bigger buildings, and so why is it called Chicago actually?
That's exactly why.
Yeah, it's got some of the taller buildings, it's also wide. And then if you ever wanted it New York, that's where it's like taller, and you can probably fill in the blank. New York, tall buildings, very, you know, compact. So I got you on the Apple box configuration, baby. What you know about that? Let's go. It's the Apple box dance.